Hello, and thanks for stopping by. If you look around, you'll see that London is home to an incredible menagerie of animals. Statues and sculptures of animals, that is. Most obvious, of course, are the four mighty lions, which guard the base of Nelson's Column, although you can spot more lions outside the Tower of London, beavers on the roof of 105 to 109 Oxford Street, two geese perched above the aptly named poultry, and even the odd camel or two. Elsewhere, there are cats, dogs, tortoises, fish, dolphins, and even a Peruvian bear looking a little lost at Paddington Station. I wonder what we should call him. A fictional critter is even the subject of London's smallest blue plaque, although I'm not quite sure how official it is. You'll find the marker at the base of this postbox on the corner of Baker Street and Malcolm Street, the postbox in question supposedly being the covert HQ for Danger Mouse, who in the 1980s was dubbed the greatest secret agent in the world. Sticking with rodents, mice are also notable for appearing in what's generally accepted to be London's smallest public sculpture. A pair of brown mice nibbling away at a piece of cheese, which you'll find 15 foot above the ground on the corner of Eastcheap and Philpot Lane. Philpot Lane being named after Sir John Philpot, who served as the Lord Mayor of London in the late 1370s. The two mice eating cheese are one of London's most beloved little curiosities. They even have a cameo in a 2019 film, Last Christmas, although thanks to Hollywood geography, it's made to appear as if they're just around the corner from Bridges Place in Covent Garden, which, in reality, is a good mile and a half away from Philpot Lane. Despite being a quirky favourite, the two mice on Philpot Lane are shrouded in mystery, as the identity of whoever puts them there, and their reason for doing so, have been long lost to time. Although having said that, there are several theories, including one which, in the course of researching this video, I've personally formulated, which we'll get to shortly. The building to which the pair of mice cling was built between 1863 and 1864. It was commissioned by spice merchants named Hunt and Crombie, with the architectural firm tasked with its design being John Young & Son. You can see another example of their work not too far away on Little Britain, although sadly you won't find any little sculptures of mice at this location. The construction firm responsible for the Philpot Lane building meanwhile were Piper and Wheeler, who, also in the 1860s, built the German Gymnasium, now a restaurant, which you can see located between King's Cross and St Pancras. As you can see, the former Hunt and Crombie building, which cost £3,500 at the time to construct, is beautifully detailed, with the mice forming just a tiny aspect of its minutiae. Shortly after it was completed, in January 1864, the Builder magazine praised it as being an advance in London street architecture for commercial purposes, and it was indeed a practical design, originally combining both warehouse and office space. Interestingly, this contemporary sketch, which is meticulously drawn, appears to include every detail except the mice. I know the mice eating cheese are tiny, but so are other aspects which have been included, which begs the question, do the mice date from the early 1860s, or were they added later? There were certainly representations of animals present on the building when it first opened, namely the long row of dog and wild boar heads, which you can see lining the roof. A quirky feature which many people miss in their eagerness to find the mice. I'm not sure what the significance of these is, although I'm going to hazard a guess and say that the boar's heads are a reference to the former Boar's Head Inn, which was once located on Eastcheap and was a favourite haunt of Shakespeare's booze-loving character Falstaff, and the dogs? Maybe they were put there to symbolically guard the spices stored in the warehouse section. Who knows? There are some seemingly random faces too. along with these charming shell medallions, which bear the names of the architects, construction firm, and builder's merchant. Some minor alterations have been made to the building, most notably this plaque bearing the number 23, as, rather confusingly, when it first opened, and as seen in the 1864 registration, the building used to be classed as 39. As for the mice eating cheese, well, the earliest reference to them I've been able to track down dates from February 1943, where, in a column in the Nottingham Evening Post, entitled The Lighter Side, it was stated, "On the face of a building in Philpot Lane, London, is a carving of 2 mice nibbling at a piece of cheese." The story is that when the building was being erected, the workmen used to miss part of their bread and cheese. The mystery was solved when the foreman saw 2 mice making off with a dainty morsel. The incident was fashioned in stone, and there it remains to this day. This clipping from the 1940s introduces the first theory to suggest the reason for the creation of the mice, and, in my opinion, it sounds like a perfectly reasonable explanation. A similar version of the story can be found in a March 1975 edition of the Daily Mirror, in which it was claimed the cheese wasn't stolen. Instead, the workmen liked to feed the mice and treat them as pets, thus inspiring this small memorial in honour of their tiny furry friends. As charming as all of this is though, other versions of the story are, well, somewhat more violent. This is demonstrated in the next mention I've been able to find, dating from New Year's Eve 1959, in a newspaper called the Civil and Military Gazette, which was based in India. In this article, it was reported that, in a recent BBC radio broadcast, a London police constable named PC Nimmo gave a talk on London's Curiosities, in which he included the mice, claiming, "When the building was going up, 2 of the workmen employed on it kept on missing their midday meal of bread and cheese. Each suspected the other. Eventually, a fight ensued. One of the workmen was seriously injured, and the other went to prison for it." The real culprits of the thefts were not discovered until the building was complete, and the remains of large nests of mice and the sandwiches of bread and cheese were found. The event was recorded with a touch of Victorian sentimentality by building in a model, in stone, of a lump of cheese with 2 mice on it, which can be seen today. In other versions of this story, it's said that this supposed punch-up caused one, or both of the men to tumble off the scaffolding and plummet to their death, whilst another telling claims the fight occurred during construction of Sir Christopher Wren's monument, which was erected nearby in the 1670s to commemorate the Great Fire of London. In reality, the theory that mice pinching bread and cheese resulted in the death of 1 or 2 workmen is highly unlikely. Although plenty of workers have indeed sadly died on construction sites in London over the years, there's even a memorial to those who have on nearby Tower Hill. There's no record of any such fatalities occurring at either the Philpot Lane building or indeed the monument, nor can I find any reference to someone being sent to prison for fighting at the Philpot Lane site. Builders and fights over sandwiches aside, there are a few other lesser known theories relating to the mice eating cheese. One idea suggests they were placed here in reference to Dick Whittington, who, according to legend, made his fortune by hiring out his cat, who was a prized mouse catcher, whilst another reckons they're a grim allusion to the plague, which, if that were the case, would mean these wee rodents are in fact rats. As mentioned earlier, I've also come up with my own theory. You see, many centuries ago, a church once stood opposite Philpot Lane, which was called St Andrew Hubbard. The church was destroyed during the Great Fire and never rebuilt, although an echo of it, a parish marker, can still be seen on Philpot Lane. The name Hubbard also appears, of course, in the early 19th century nursery rhyme Old Mother Hubbard, in which an elderly woman opens up her larder only to find it bare. Although mice aren't directly mentioned in the rhyme, they were known to pinch food from pantries in those days. So perhaps whoever created the mice eating cheese had Old Mother Hubbard in mind, especially considering that, when put in place, they were originally located close to what was then an upper warehouse door. But then again, maybe we're just looking a little too deeply into things. The most likely answer is that the mice were just a bit of harmless fun, a cute inclusion, similar to the wooden mice, which the furniture maker Robert Thompson used to incorporate into his work. Or the tiny signature mice that the artist Terence Cuneo liked to hide in his paintings. Or indeed, the alien grotesque, a reference to the 1979 film of the same name, which was added to the 12th century Paisley Abbey in Scotland in the 1990s by a cheeky stonemason. What do you think? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look at London's tiniest sculpture, and as always, I'd love to hear your own thoughts. Do you have any theories of your own as to why they're here? And what other interesting animal artworks can you think of? Please be sure to let me know in the comments. If you haven't yet subscribed to Rob's London, then I'd appreciate it very much if you could please consider doing so, as this, along with clicking the bell icon to receive notifications, will ensure that you don't miss out whenever I publish a new video. Plus, of course, it'd be wonderful to have you along. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also support my work with a tip via either my Ko-fi account, which I'll link below, or the YouTube thanks button, which appears as a heart icon beneath the video. Any such financial donations are of course greatly appreciated, and they really do help go towards creating content. Anyway, on that note, thanks again for watching friends. Stay well, and please be sure to stay tuned.